Mary Myers is here at the Peabody Public Library for the Whitley County Oral History Project, and this is April 29th, 2010, and I am John Pontius. Thank you for coming and being here, Mary.
You're welcome.
So where were you born and raised?
I was born in Fort Wayne. We was in
Okay.
the hospital. My mother got to go to the hospital in Fort Wayne and have me, but I was raised in Smith Township, about a quarter of a mile from Thorncreek.
Okay.
On the Chrome, but it's called the Chrome Road now. But
Okay.
I don't know the name of it when I was a kid.
I don't know if it had a name.
I don't think it did, probably not.
Okay. This was a couple miles west of Collins,
That's
wasn't
correct.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that where you went to school?
That's where I went to school through
Oh.
8th grade, and then I went to Churubusco, graduated from Churubusco.
Okay. Is the school still there?
No, the school's long gone.
Where exactly was it in Collins? There's nothing there now?
There's a home there now.
Oh,
There's a nice home there now.
okay. Can you describe in some way where it used to be?
Well, if you was going towards Churubusco on 205 and you turned on the road that goes down through Collins, it would probably be the 4th or 5th home, where the 4th or 5th home is.
On
On the left side or the north side of the road.
Okay, so it was on an east-west road.
Yes.
Okay. What was the building like? Was it brick or?
It was a brick school. It had 4 classrooms. First
4?
set- Yeah.
Now,
First,
so did 2 grades have to be in?
yes, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
And the interesting thing was that the 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th grade was divided by a wall. That was, for the 5th and 6th grade, it was a blackboard, and they would roll it up into the ceiling, and then it would make a great big room between the 5th and 6th and
okay.
7th, 8th, and then we'd have a Christmas, we always had a Christmas play. And
Okay.
in front of the 8th, 7th and 8th grade room was one of these walls that rolled up in the
Mhm.
ceiling too, and the stage was up there. And then the
Okay.
parents would come and see us perform.
Did it have a gym?
Oh yes, we had a nice gym in the basement. The
Okay.
restrooms were in the basement too.
It was 2-story.
Yeah, yes, you could kind of call it a 2-story.
Okay.
There was a home ec room downstairs, but they wasn't seldom used, and then there was a shop downstairs too, and then the furnace room was downstairs too.
Mhm. Have a cafeteria, some kind?
Towards the end, before I left there, the mothers would come in and fix meals for us.
So how big were some of your classes about?
Anywhere is from like 24 to 36.
Well, that's
That'd be
quite a few.
two grades, so that would be
Oh,
2
okay.
grades. Mhm.
Okay. Do any teachers stand out in your mind?
We just had a lot of respect for them then.
Okay. How about your classmates? Do you remember any of them back then?
Oh,
Some of your neighbors, probably.
well, Louis Tobby, I remember Louis Tobby because he was really a good student.
Oh, okay.
Jane Yan, and she's gone. Louis, so is Louis.
Mhm. So, when did they close the school down, roughly, you suppose?
I'm not really sure. I was
Several
looking-
years at least after
Oh,
you.
yes. Well, I have a yearbook of Churubusco's 54th yearbook, and it still had the classes of Collins in there. So,
Okay,
I don't know. I don't know when
okay,
it,
probably in the 50s.
I would imagine.
Sometime.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about what else was in Collins. Now, the railroad ran right through it?
To the
Right.
south of the school. But
Okay.
there was homes on both sides of the railroad.
Okay,
There was 2 big warehouses, and I think the trains used to pick up, one warehouse had onions in it and the other one had potatoes in it. And
Okay.
the train would stop and load, to the best
So
of my
they-
knowledge, would haul that out.
so there was a station there?
Well,
of some kind.
just probably a sidetrack.
Okay,
But the train only went through like in the morning and once in the evening.
okay. So while you were in school, you wouldn't hear it, probably?
Oh, yeah, we heard
Oh,
it, but you never
okay.
paid any attention to it.
Okay. You mentioned onions. There was a lot of, one distinctive thing about Collins area is they had a lot of muck, didn't they?
They did, that's where they raised a lot of mint also.
Mint,
Mint.
in the muck area. Now, how did they sell that? Did they,
They stilled it
okay.
in big
They had
vats.
they cooked it, in other words?
Yes,
And made oil?
I guess.
Something
I don't
like
know.
that.
It was always so neat in the fall though, we would have our windows open because it'd be warm. And they
Even where you lived?
No, there at
Oh,
the
in the
school.
school,
Well,
okay.
we could once in a while smell it where we lived.
And you could smell them?
Smell them,
Okay.
still in that, oh, it smelled so good, yes.
Okay, and do they still
Oh,
grow
no.
mint there?
No,
Okay.
some of the kids from school would work in the mint fields and in the onion fields.
Oh,
And they would have to make sure all the weeds was pulled out of the mint, especially, so that the
Okay.
weed didn't get mixed into.
to the oil and,
Yes,
oh. And they grew onions in the muck there.
Yes.
Now, there's a big block building there in Collins, and now it's a semi-truck repair shop. Now, did that have anything to do with onions, storing onions or anything, or?
I can't tell you, I'm not sure,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
and there's another block building that has pants on it. But did you what other, were there any other businesses in
There was a general store.
general, and where was
Secrets
that?
It was on east of the school, on the same side of the road, but you turned, you kind of made a curve, and it was sitting right there.
Okay,
And it was a general store, and he would buy eggs from, mother would take eggs over, and he'd sell her,
oh,
buy her eggs, and then she would buy flour and sugar and maybe bread, something like that. And he had ice cream, the best ice cream, and we
okay,
could walk up from the school. We could walk up from the school and get an ice cream cone for a nickel.
okay.
Really good ice cream.
Uh,
And they pumped gas too. He had a gas station there. We would stop on the way home from church a lot of times, and Dad would treat us with a quart of ice cream.
Okay.
Mr. Sechrist took care of it, run it.
Secret,
Sechrist. mhm.
okay. And it's no longer
Oh,
there?
no, it's gone too.
Was there ever a post office in there?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Anything else in Churubusco back then? There was a church, wasn't there?
Yes. There was an EUB church, and there was a parsonage across the road from it, down a ways, little ways.
Okay,
It's a Methodist church now.
okay. So, do you know how Collins got its name?
No, I do not.
I'm thinking there was a James Collins that was president of the railroad, and that might have been where they got the name. I don't know for sure. So in Churubusco, did you go to church in Churubusco?
After the Blue River Methodist Church was closed, yes, we went to Churubusco Methodist Church.
Okay, now why did the Blue River Methodist Church close?
Because that was during the war, and there was a breakdown in the furnace, and they couldn't get the parts, so they tried to
Okay.
have church in people's homes, and it just didn't work, so people
Okay,
divided up. Your folks went to Columbia City, and my
Yes.
folks and my brother went to Churubusco.
and I don't know how long it was, probably 2 or 3 years before people went back to the River Church. And
But they took they had beautiful stained glass windows, and they took them out and stored them in my haymow, because
okay,
they was afraid people would vandalize
okay,
them.
okay. Well, let's talk about your grandfather. Who was he?
Willis Rhodes.
And your grandmother was Ida, wasn't
Ida.
it? Okay, and your father, who was a farmer,
Yes.
farmed your grandfather's farm, which was about a mile west.
Yes.
And it was Blue River, it was on both sides of Blue
That's
River,
correct.
wasn't it?
Mhm.
And you had a private bridge
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Now, you, I remember you having a lot of Indian artifacts from, now, they were found on that farm.
Yes, they were.
Right. Now, you had some high hills
Yes.
there, right? And
Very high. Scared me to death when I drove tractor on them.
And were they found
Yes, they were.
below?
Where the two hills come together at the bottom, Dad would plow up, and when he would farm it, he would find them. In
Okay,
fact, he even plowed up a fire, where a fire had been one time.
or what?
A fire, where the
Oh,
Indians,
okay,
when the Indians had built a fire.
okay.
It was-
Now, did you, what all were some of these, axe?
There was an axe, yes, a part of a pipe with a nice design on it, excuse me. The, many arrowheads, all different sizes, little ones to big ones.
Okay. Did you have an archaeologist look at them?
No.
I remember you.
I brought them to the historical museum one
Okay.
time, and some
Did-
gentleman looked at them, yeah. He
Did-
did look at them, but
Did they say how old some of them
No.
were? Probably 10,000 years ago. I found one, see, our farm was close to yours, and so what we know is that thousands of years, as long as 10,000 years ago, there were people on our farms running around. It's kind of amazing, isn't it?
yes, it is.
So, let's talk about some personal relationships here. My grandfather, Ira Pontius, was an indentured child in the family of the Rhodes family. And so he was like a brother to your grandfather, right? They kind of grew up together for a while. And they both married sisters, right? Well, the Wallace Sisters. And and didn't they cooperate in their farming?
Yes,
They
they
helped
did.
each other a lot?
They did.
How did they do that?
Well, one would buy like a baler, or one would have a combine, and they would share.
Now, are you
They're
talking
big.
about?
Well, no, you're talking about grandfather. and
Yeah,
I don't
they
know
did.
about grandfather and
Okay.
grandmother.
But about our
Our
fathers,
folks, yeah, our fathers.
what did they do?
Well, one would have like a combine, and they would share. I mean, he would let your father use it, and one would have a baler, and they would share,
Okay,
take turns. Instead of two of them buying the same
okay,
expensive piece of machinery,
yes.
they would share.
And and they helped each other
Oh, yes.
at harvest time, and now your grandfather was he by any chance a trustee of Thorncreek Township? It seems like I remember he was active in the community and in the Blue River Church. That's a long time ago.
Really tell you. Sorry.
I remember your father was was the one that kept these artifacts and treasured them, and he was interested in nature as a whole, wasn't he?
Yes.
How did he express that?
Well, we always had bees, and we always planted trees. Yost Braddock always had at least 20 or 30 hives of bees on our farm, where we lived,
Okay.
yeah. And
And how did that work? Did he pay you for this, or did you
No.
keep some honey from that?
he would give us honey if we wanted it, yes.
Okay,
But it was just a place for him to have his bees.
okay. And,
It was very interesting. I always enjoyed watching. He wanted me to learn how to take care of them, but I didn't like to get stung, so I didn't.
So, I remember you had some baby crows one time. What was that all about?
Well, the neighbor boy found a crow's nest, so he climbed up the tree and got the crows and brought them to us. So we raised them.
And
There was 3 of them.
And did you teach them anything?
Well, not much. Just taught them to, when we give them something to eat, I mean, they'd open their mouths and, that kind of
Okay.
thing, like other little birds do too. Then the one liked Mother real well, and he would sit on her shoulder. And when she
Okay.
would walk out to feed the chickens or something.
Okay.
And some man went through one day and shot him in our front
Really?
yard, yes. We was
Okay.
very upset.
I remember helping with hay at your grandfather's place, and there was an outhouse there, probably in the late 50s, and I remember a couple other close neighbors raised their families without plumbing in the late 50s, and
That's right.
right.
We didn't have plumbing, I never had plumbing till I left home.
Okay.
Mother never had running water, we always carried water in for.
Mhm.
In the wintertime, my brother and I would fill the reservoir in the wood-burning stove, so we'd have warm water.
Okay.
That's
So.
just the way a lot of our neighbors grew up.
Right, now, you probably, didn't matter to you that much, did it?
No.
Yeah. Now, in your neighborhood, there were descendants of freed slaves and Indians. They were kind of a mixture of that. Did you hear much about that when you grew
No.
up? Okay.
No, I never did.
Okay. So, where do you live now?
I live on the Kaiser Road, 4 miles south of Columbia City.
Okay, and how long have you lived there?
Since 1958, the day after Christmas.
Okay,
We moved there the day after
and
Christmas.
after you married,
My husband, we lived in Cleveland Township for a while,
okay, this is where you live now, is in Columbia
in
Township.
Columbia Township, that's
Okay.
correct. Mhm.
And who did you marry?
Jack D. Myers from
Okay.
South Valley.
From South Valley?
Yes,
And were his parents from South Valley?
yes, they were.
Okay. Now, you were active in the home,
Yeah. It was,
Home
when I joined, they were
extension.
home demonstration clubs.
that's what
When I
it used to
joined,
be called.
yes. When I joined Cleveland Townships, and then
Okay,
when I moved to Columbia Township, the Evening Bells invited me to join theirs, and to save driving back and forth, I did join theirs. So I belonged
Okay.
to it for 53 years. They're extension homemakers now.
okay, and now, were there, every township maybe just about has,
They did,
they did
they're
their,
dying away. It's
okay.
It's
What-
an organization that we don't have many young ones anymore.
Back, say 50 years ago, where did they meet, by the way?
In people's homes, we met in people's homes,
Okay.
which we still do, but it was a demonstration then, and like Margaret Rosentrader, Miss Rosentrader was
Okay,
an
From the extension
extension
office.
agent, yes. Excuse me. She would teach us how to sew, she taught us how to sew, how to cook, how to can, all these things
okay,
we needed then. Now, the people aren't interested in that type of thing so much.
okay, and it's still going?
The extension, yes, the extension homemakers is still going, yes.
Okay. Do you remember some of the early ones that maybe passed on, the ladies, when you first started?
I'm sorry.
Now, they were mostly
They was,
farm
most of,
wives?
yeah, most of them were, yes, at one time, they probably all were at one time.
Okay, okay. And so it's been a big thing with you over the
Oh, yes.
years that it's some of them, many of them were neighbors, more or less.
Yes,
all
I
from
lived in
this-
Cleveland Township, yes.
All from the same area.
Mhm.
So is there anything you'd like to add to all of this? As you grew up, and what did you were over along Blue River a lot? Did you and your brother Paul David play in around the river? Did you wade in it much?
We waded in it, but Mother was afraid because we couldn't swim, she was always
Okay.
afraid we would step in a hole or something, so we didn't get to wade in it very often.
Okay, did you ever fish in it?
Yes, we fished a few times, yeah.
Okay,
Got a few little fish.
okay. What other things did kids do back then?
Well, we had a swamp where we lived, excuse me,
Okay,
and Paul David and I would spend hours playing around the edge of the swamp. And in the woods, we had an open ditch that the tile ran into the open ditch in the woods. And we would build a bridge across it, and we'd build a dam on it, and we would just
Okay.
spend hours and hours playing back there where the water was running through.
okay. You had a lot of woods around there too,
Yes.
didn't you? Yeah.
Yes.
Still is a lot,
Yes,
still
there is.
woods. So your family went to church in Churubusco. Did you do your shopping there mostly, or did you go?
No, we shopped in Columbia City.
Okay. Where did you buy your groceries? And mostly, remember?
Was there a Jan's? There was a Jan's store.
I believe there was.
Yes,
Yes.
Jan's store.
Yes.
We would go to Collins too and get groceries though too.
Okay. How long was that store there, do you suppose?
I-
It was there when you
Oh,
graduated and moved
yeah,
on?
oh,
and
yes,
it's still there?
yes, it was still there then. Mhm.
Okay. Now, the high school in Churubusco, do you have a picture of it
I
there?
have a picture here.
Now, is this, kind of just hold it straight up there, yeah? Now, is this school still there?
No, the school's long gone.
Really?
Yes, it's gone too. This was the high school and the elementary school.
Okay. And where was it? Is it close to where the school, high
Yes.
school is now? It is,
It
okay,
is close by the school.
okay. And so you were, what, about 7 miles or so from Churubusco?
Probably.
Bus,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, there would be 4 buses, excuse me, there would be 4 buses would come into Collins and unload, and 1 bus would pick up the high school kids and take them to Churubusco.
Oh, I see.
And this was the high school on the top floor and the elementary and the first floor.
Okay. And.
Gym was in the basement.
Okay. Or you remember any teachers from high school that stand up?
Mr. Starkey, he was a math teacher.
Hmm.
Mr. Inks, he was eventually our
What did you-
principal. And Mr. Buzzard was the coach.
What were they like, some of them?
Well, you gave a lot of respect to them. You didn't cross them.
Okay.
Mrs. Vivian Harris was our
Oh.
English teacher, one of them. And Mrs. Holmes was the other English teacher.
Mhm.
Yes, you didn't argue with them. You didn't cross them. I mean, you gave them respect,
Okay.
a lot of respect.
Now, were there times when you got to walk around town during,
Yes.
after?
At lunchtime, we could go up to the drugstore and we would buy a root beer. Not very often.
On the main street there?
Excuse me. Yes.
Okay, remember the name of that drugstore?
No.
And they had a fountain there?
Yes.
Where you could sit there and,
Nice. Big root beer for a nickel.
okay.
It was good.
And were there activities in school that you liked? in high school?
Well, because I had to go home and milk, I never got to stay
Okay.
for the activities. But they had a basketball team, you know, softball team, baseball
Okay.
team,
Okay.
those things.
So you, when you were growing up, you and your brother both helped on a farm quite a
Yes.
bit. And he had cows and some hogs, I suppose.
Yes, we had hogs.
Um,
Chickens.
Chickens. Now, you probably helped a lot with those and gathered the eggs.
Yes.
And, um,
We would go to grandmother's, and she had chickens too, and we would help her gather the eggs.
okay.
But she always wore an apron, I can still remember that, and she would pick her bottom of her apron up and then put the eggs in her,
Okay.
you know, apron.
Did she or your mother raise baby chickens from the eggs ever? Ever?
No, we always bought them.
Okay.
Bought day-old
Okay.
chickens.
And where would your father buy supplies like feed for the hogs or the chickens?
Well, we ground our own feed,
Okay.
but he would buy the supplement or whatever you put into it
Mhm.
at the CoOp in
And
Columbia City.
Columbia City.
Mhm.
And like, where would he buy implements and a tractor and that sort of thing?
Well, he had a co-op tractor too, so I
Okay.
suppose it was bought it from the
Yes.
co-op.
Okay. No, before that, he had horses, of course. Do you remember the horses?
Yes, I remember the horses, but
You probably had two horses?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike and Bessie.
Okay. And they were sold off probably
Yes.
when you got a tractor?
It makes me sad when I think where they was sold. They was sold to a man. He was coming through the country and saw them out in the field one day, and that was when we hardly used them anymore. And he wanted them to buy and put in a coal mine or some
Oh,
mine.
okay. Did you ever have like a pet cat or
Oh, yes.
did you like?
Yeah, we got attached to our cats, yes.
Okay. And probably had, like most farmers, had a dog.
Oh, yes. the dog.
Just what kind of dog was that?
Well, there
Probably
was,
had several.
there was collies, mostly.
Okay. So was growing up in there on a farm in Smith Township, was that a pretty good life?
Oh, wonderful.
to start?
I thought.
And growing up now, where you live now is very different. It's very flat, isn't it, compared to where?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And so have you had big gardens? You probably had gardens and lived off of them when you were growing up, didn't you?
Yeah, but we do now too.
Big garden?
Yes, a very big garden.
Okay. What do you do with the garden now? You like preserve it, can it,
yes,
and that sort of
yeah.
thing?
We canned over 700 cans of stuff last year.
Okay. Is this unusual nowadays for people to have a garden and
Well, I think they're doing more of it with the economics the way it is. I think they're
Okay.
canning more.
okay. And your husband does a lot of that?
Yes.
Okay.
The greenhouse is full of plants right now.
Okay. But he is not a farmer, right?
He was till
Oh.
till his mother sold the farm and we moved.
Oh, okay. And then what did he do then?
He was a bricklayer, makes
And
them
kind of
for
a,
D&C construction for years.
wasn't he kind of a supervisor part of the time?
At one time, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
And when D&C, well, they reduced their staff, they did away with most of them, and he was a custodian at Cleveland Township, and then went into Columbia City when they closed Columbia Township School.
is D&C construction still around?
Yeah, it's still around, yes.
Oh, okay.
But not very big, I don't believe.
Okay. Well, now, I remember you as Mary Jane,
Yes,
and now they don't call you, you don't go by that so much now, I
No.
suppose.
except the ones that knew me before I
Okay.
dropped to Jane.
Okay, Mary Jane, thank you very much for sharing your life and your knowledge of Collins and Churubusco with us.
Thank you.